My name is AlexanderHadjis, and this is my third critical review for APS 1012, Management of Innovation Engineering. The paper that I have chosen to review for this assignment is InnovationMetrics, the Innovative Process and How to Measure It by Langdon Morris of Innovative Labs. In InnovationMetrics, Langdon Morris endeavors to guide the reader through the innovation lifecycle while illuminating opportunities and methodologies to assess the innovative portfolio. His thorough paper is prefaced and concluded with contextual explanations that will close the loop for anyone from a novice to a seasoned innovation veteran. Warnings of common pitfalls for the first-time application of metrics are delicately provided as the author attempts to relate to the reader with a sort of been there, done that approach. It is light and at the same time dense, making for an easy read that leaves the reader feeling as though they have acquired some valuable information and perspective on the topic. InnovationMetrics is a paper whose goal is to help the reader establish, albeit at a high level, a metrics evaluation program suitable to her or his specific type of innovation. The paper is prefaced by a section that explains, in brief, the most traditional approach to the measurement of innovation. The reader is shown the perils of the overusage of ROI, return on investment, and indeed is injected into the culture of innovation measurement via common quips poked at the inappropriate usage of ROI as a metric. One sentence notes that it is commonly referred to as restraint on innovation, simply because it prevents the very thing that it endeavors to measure. This type of commentary, in my opinion, adds a sense of legitimacy to the purpose of the paper. The author has laid out a need, a common approach to meeting the need, and through simple explanation, explains how current methods fail to meet that same need. I appreciated having a new term to subtly slip into a sentence at my next project team meeting. In order to further validate the paper, Morris quickly reminds the reader of what the purpose of innovation truly is. While this may seem redundant, I found the author's explanation useful in identifying his frame of reference. With this in hand, I could better understand from what perspective he would be recommending the metrics that were to follow, and then assess their relevance to my future applications. More importantly, I was able to determine whether or not I agreed or disagreed with them. Morris's explanation of how the innovative process occurs in large corporations follows the analogy of a funnel. While I have no experience by which to assess this model, his explanations seem to be coherent and flow logically. He explains that each step of the 9-step process applies certain filters to the innovation in question. The purpose of these filters is to sift through the innovation portfolio. The ideas that pass through are the output of that stage. What I found particularly useful was how there is a continuous reference to the context for the discourse that ensues. This helped me ground the discussion with experiences that I have had in my own life, allowed me to draw parallels, and therefore better understand what it is that the author intended me to get from the paper. To get at the meat of the paper, the metrics, each stage is explained and the metrics follow shortly thereafter. Metrics are provided as part of two groupings, namely quantitative and qualitative. The use of qualitative metrics I found particularly appealing because to me it seemed like the author was encouraging the use of perhaps the most universal and valuable tool of all, common sense. I think that especially with engineers, quite often the belief is that an answer can be found either in a textbook or through the rigorous use of a calculator. The reality is that quite often, however, there are no rules, and furthermore, that what we observe today is not necessarily what will be observed tomorrow. As one would expect with the offering of a method, Morris also has personal advice sprinkled throughout, which helps the reader identify opportunities for excellence. Something I felt that was lacking in this paper was a discussion on the effects that organizational structure can have in stifling innovation. By this, I mean that the metrics discussed in this paper place no accountability on senior executives who may introduce company policy that directly impacts the innovator's ability to do what it is that they do. This is true for both the qualitative and quantitative metrics covering all stages of the innovative process. I think that this is a gross oversight since senior executives carry the most power and influence in the organization and therefore the greatest potential to either make or break innovation within it. A characteristic that I have not commented on in previous critical reviews is how the paper impacted me when I first looked at it. By this I'm referring quite literally to the aesthetic look and appeal of the paper. In this paper's case, the result was quite positive. The font is clear and supports quite nicely the minimalist feel created by the extra wide margins. A quick leaf-through of the pages shows that graphics are used sparingly, which increases their relevance. In order to help the reader relate to each stage, an icon is used to symbolize that stage. For instance, the icon in Stage 2, Ideation, is the sandbox. The author goes on to introduce the stage by explaining the relevance of the icon. This created mental imagery and helped me find a reference to my own personal experiences that in turn helped me better understand what the author was trying to convey. The positive effect of this was that I found myself retaining more of the content after one read-through of the paper than I typically would have. The aesthetic feel of the paper was underlined by the choice of credible, yet not over-the-top language. In general, the feel was that of a young innovator speaking, which served to bolster the author's point of view because I found myself saying, yeah, I could definitely see this person taking a chance, trying something new, or pushing the boundaries of conventional wisdom. In many ways, this paper was unique. I read it 4 times prior to feeling confident enough to thoroughly review it, and I view this as a testament to its thorough covering of metrics that can be applied to the evaluation of innovation. This paper would be a terrific starting place for a newcomer to InnovationMetrics, but would also serve as a fantastic source of revitalization and refocusing for an existing metrics program as well. The author creates reader buy-in to the fact that InnovationMetrics programs are a required component of the innovative process, and uses this to then clearly show the reader how they can be implemented. I would highly recommend this paper even to a layperson because its insight into the world of idea cultivation is certainly something to be appreciated within any industry or work environment.